Yesterday, we stood in the rain and the wind at Kiandra and heard one message repeated again and again. For some, this debate is about ecology. For others, animal welfare. But as the conversations continued, another theme kept resurfacing. Many people here do not see this as simply a debate about horses. They see something deeper at stake. They speak about memory, about identity, about who gets to tell the story of Australia, and what parts of that story remain visible for future generations. To some, the brumby issue is not merely an animal in a national park. It represents the stock routes, the mountain huts, the pioneers, the pack horses, the mail runs, the opening of the high country, and a connection, rightly or wrongly, to a version of Australia they feel is disappearing. Others would strongly disagree with that view and argue that protecting landscape and native species is itself an act of preserving heritage. And perhaps that's what makes this issue so powerful, because underneath the arguments over numbers and management sits a harder question. What do we preserve, and who gets to decide? In this concluding run of interviews, we invite you to listen beyond the headlines, not simply to hear what people think about brumbies, but to hear what they think is happening to Australia. And after you've watched, we'd genuinely like to hear from you. Is this really just a horse issue? Or is something bigger at play? Heritage, identity, local control, conservation, or something else entirely?
I'm with Hardley from.
Forever Free Brumby Rescue.
It's a pleasure to meet you. Welcome to the Monero Zone. Just a couple questions. What was the purpose of today's event?
Well, the purpose of today's event was to show that the public is against what national parks and the government's doing. I think there was a good unity of support here and bringing people together. I'm not going to go down the numbers thing and all the wrongs and rights of it all, but we all know what's happening is not humane. There's no need for it. The numbers aren't here. And the public support for such a long area, people have travelled a long way, Victoria, Sydney, out further, Newcastle, and I think it was a good turn-up.
And if you had a magic wand and could affect any change, what would you like to happen?
I'd like locals to be able to manage the horses like they did for hundreds of years, where you never had a problem of so-called populations. But since national parks have taken over, these magical unicorns are appearing everywhere. So I think it needs to be handed back over to the locals and national parks to keep their bib out of it.
And what would you like the community? How can the community support you in this?
Well, the community can support by supporting the rehomers. The community can support by being vocal, being the voice for what we know is corrupt and wrong. And it's about time the people of Australia stood up. This isn't just about the Brumbies. This is what's happening, all over the country with being ruled by things that we don't have a say in.
Tell me more about that. That this brumby issue is just the tip of the iceberg?
Yes, I do. I think it's the tip of the iceberg. We're being ruled by the left side of politics. We don't have a say. Those people in suits and ties in there at Parliament House think that they're speaking for the public without taking anything to the public, and they all have their own agenda. And the agenda, you have to remember, the horses, this comes back to pioneer colonial days. The horses were part of this. They took the kids to school, they were the mailmen, took our soldiers to war. The government used the Brumbies to open the 2000 Olympic Games. Now, the Brumbies are one part of it, and it just seems all our heritage rights on all sorts of things, like they even want to sell off all the barracks now, It's a part of our colonial history that the government's just wanting to abolish.
Hardly. Thank you very much. Was there anything that I missed?
No, I think so. Just to help save our Brumbies.
Much appreciated. Okay. Erin, it's a pleasure to meet you. Welcome to the Monero Zone. What has brought you out on this cold and windy day?
To support the Brumbies.
Yeah, and what's happening to the brumbies?
They're being slaughtered.
Did you want to define that for those city people that might not know what's happening out in our region?
The government's spending thousands and millions of taxpayers' money. Should be spent in other ways. They shouldn't be doing the aerial culling.
How else could they manage this issue, do you think?
Well, it's been proven that they can trap them. It's been proven that the sanctuaries can look after them. That money should be going towards them.
Well, how do you think today went? And you're happy with the way it was organised?
I believe so. Yeah, it would be nice to see more media here, though. Maybe more cameras to actually see what's going on.
Thank you, Erin. I really appreciate your time. Was there any... Renee and Seth, it's a pleasure to have you on the Monero Zone. We'll start with you, Renee. What brought you out here today?
Well, I'm obviously here for the Brumbies. I'm not a local. I am from Victoria, but for over 20 years, I have been on the go with trying to get something to stop the shooting of the Brumbies down in Victoria. Unfortunately, there was a joint management plan with Parks Victoria and Yorta Yorta Corporation out at Barmer, and that was to eradicate the Brumbies. And they actually got their plan done in 4 years, and every single Brumby in Barmer is now eradicated. So the government have got a blueprint on what to do. They have made it a success, not for the Brumbies or for the people, but the government knows what to do and how to do it because they've achieved it in Barmer. And why I'm up here is to say that people, you better be on the watch out because they know what to do. Same thing, flawed numbers, voodoo science, it's just made up.
And Seth, how would you respond to the claim that the Brumbies are just another form of invasive species that needs to be taken out, much like the pigs, much like the deer?
Well, I would respond very strongly to that because it's actually horses and bullocks that open this country up. They came across with our, the convicts and the colonials. They built this country, they opened it up. We owe everything to the bullocks and the horses, and then later on the cattle, which, came in. But horses have a very, very special place in this country. We went to war on the horses. Everyone used to ride horses before industrialization. And the horses that live here at the Snowies particularly, they have adapted to this area. Just as if you look around at the grasslands and the open plains, they have adapted to the horses. And so you take that away, you break the whole ecological cycle. So the horses here are not invasive. They have adapted just as this is how nature works. The same as us, nature's had to adapt to humans, going in and opening up areas of the land, and it still manages to kick on and continue. As long as we don't poison it to death, as we see up here, and shoot it to death, as we see happening with the governments. You've got the kangaroos being shot to death at the moment down in Canberra. You've got the Brumbies up here. You've got everything being poisoned by 1080. So, yeah, you know what? Get rid of the pigs, okay? Pigs do cause problems. And deer, but so too, I've grown up with deer. Deer have been on the loose in this country for a very long time. I used to come from Waterfall, just south of Sydney, and back then we had deer, and they would come into our yard, and there wasn't the hate for the animals that are roaming around that we see now. They want to wipe everything out.
Yeah. And I think what's not spoken about is they remove populations of Brumbies out of an area. That then opens up the area, and the species like the deer and the pigs that are prolific breeders then move into that area because the Brumbies are gone. You're creating more of a problem. I mean, Brumby management will only be successful if they look at all the other species down the track. Isolating one species is not going to give them a pristine park. You've only got to look at what the destruction's going on with the expansion and all the tourism and the Snowy too. Keep things in perspective.
If there was one thing you could tell the community, what would that be?
I think you need to get onto your local MP. You need to just keep sharing the news around that what people are being fed out there is not the complete truth. There's always two sides to the story, and there's got to be a middle point for both sides to agree on.
What I would like, because there's a lot of misinformation and there's a lot of government propaganda, I'd like everybody to get in their cars, drive up to KNP and have a look for themselves. Have a look, because that's the only way that you get yourself informed.
You're right.
One thing that's come up in some of the talks I've had with people out here is they think that there could be a deeper issue to this issue as well in regards to heritage and legacy.
Oh, 100%. You know, I really think that they're trying to whitewash a lot of our culture and heritage that we have as European settlers in this country. And I don't mean that in any other form, but this is our heritage too. My great-grandfather came from the high country. He was a timber cutter. He had his own team of bullocks to do the timber cutting. I respect and live by that heritage. Why is it okay for our heritage to go? These brumbies, these mountains are part of our heritage too. There's enough space for everyone to have their own bit of heritage. Let's not make it a divisive thing. Let's just all embrace it together.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that it is that the government is trying to erase our past, the past 200 years. It was convicts and it was early pioneers that opened this country up and built this country to what it is now, that everyone benefits from. We need to respect that. We need to hang on to that, and we cannot let them wipe that out.
Thank you very much for your time, ladies.
A pleasure.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much for the opportunity.
Yeah.